It was in the mid 90s, right as the web was taking off. And back then they'd put a mirror under your nose, and if it fogged up, you got the job. So, but this is what I wanted to do since I was 10 years old. So it was lucky for me. There was a show in the 80s called Whiz Kids, and it lasted for about half a season. And I remember seeing that show. You remember the old modems where you'd put the phone on top of the modem? And I saw that, and I that's what I want to do. I've since looked it up on YouTube, and it was a terrible show. But yeah, there was just something about that, because there was these kids, they had all these computers. Of course, they had adult supervision, and they were solving crimes, because that's every show in the 80s. And I don't know, there was just something about that. I wanted to do that. So I asked for a computer that year, and asked for a computer the next year, and asked for a computer the next year. I think the third year, my parents were like, all right, we're going to get him a computer. So I got a Commodore VIC-20, which was not powerful. But then I think a few years later, I got a Commodore 64. I would just play around with that and taught myself BASIC. Tried to learn machine language at the time. You'd get these magazines with machine language code, and you would type in the code not knowing at all what you're inputting, right? It's just hexadecimal code. Just input that and then play the game. I grew up in Georgia. I was born in Atlanta. We moved to Savannah when I was 13, and I kind of went back and forth until I moved out here to Colorado. Because it was the .com bust, and I couldn't get any work in Atlanta, and MX Logic said, hey, we'll pay you to move out here. So I'm like, well, what do I have to lose? So I thought I would move out here for a couple of years and then move back. And I tell people I was here a month. I was like, I'm not going back. We were in that more western building, and so literally I could look out my window and see the mountains, and it was just amazing. I was like, what? I'm not going back. And we didn't have traffic back then like we have now. It was great. I'd wish I had known that you were going to have to read more code than you were going to write. And I wish I had known how important it was to debug code, which is something I thoroughly enjoy now. I love finding bugs. Back then I thought, if I can learn this programming language, if I can learn Visual Basic or C or something like that, then I can create any program I want. And I didn't know that there's just a lot involved to that. You know, there's a lot of debugging, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of just, you know. And so now I do know these languages, and now I can create any language I want, or any program I want. And I didn't know back then that it's kind of a pain. It's still fun, I still love it, and I still enjoy it, but it's still a lot more work than I thought it was going to be back then. I thought, if I master this language, I can build anything I want just like that. And it's just not true. I didn't quit, because that would have been easy a lot of times to quit. Starting Raika, you know, I mean, I'd started several companies before and they failed, in large part because of me. I didn't quit trying to start companies. I wanted to work with you guys, you and Grant, first and foremost. I wanted to work on interesting projects that I got to choose, instead of projects that were like, here, go build this, that I just wasn't passionate about. You know, in the past, especially during the .com booms and busts, it's like, go start a company, you can make a lot of money, and that's the number one focus. And this time it was like, that's there, you know, I want to make money, but I want to make great products. I want to work with great people. That's what's most important, and that's why I did this. Not believing that I was able to do it. And that's something that I still struggle with. I just did something for a client that is so easy. I've been doing this for 25 years, right? And this was not hard at all. Even still, going into it, I'm like, can I do this? Can I pull this off? And at the same time, I'm going, yes, you can do this. Why are you thinking that? I guess it's fuel to keep going, right? I can do this. I'm going to prove to myself that I can do this. To me, a failure is a mistake that you keep making. You keep making the same mistake over and over again. My original answer is a little bit of a failure in the sense that I keep thinking that, oh, am I going to be able to do this? Even though I know deep down that the answer is yes, I can do this. I've been going back to basics. So right now I'm reading the C programming language book. There's another book after that called Code, and I can't think of the guy's name. I think I've mentioned him on another podcast, where in this book, he really breaks it down and shows how you can make your own processor with light switches. And I like going back to that. I like going back to those basics, those fundamentals, and sort of refreshing, because I always pick up something new each time that helps me in what I'm doing now. Digging a little deeper each time and trying to understand more about the fundamentals. I'm bald. I don't know if you've noticed. The Incredibles is my favorite Pixar movie. I love the look of it, that sort of 50s, 60s look. It's a great story. To me, that's kind of up there at the pinnacle. I was just reading an article about how Pixar has just kind of not been doing great since Disney bought them, and that was at their pinnacle, right around that era. And I saw it right when I met my wife. Maybe that's related. I don't know. Oh, Jack, totally, right? Because he can do it all. You can turn into a little demon. You can go to other dimensions. Yeah, he's got it all. I wish I'd gone into the military. That's one of my few regrets. I wish I'd gone into the military, because it's hard. They're insane and they do the hard things. I don't know that I would have made it a career, but I don't know. I'm insane though, because I talk to these guys and I hear their stories of boot camp and, oh, that was so terrible. I'm like, that sounds like fun. I want to do that. It sounds awful, but it sounds like fun too. Believe in yourself more, I guess. You can do this. Just don't give up. Just keep trying. It's going to suck sometimes, and it's going to be a lot of fun sometimes, so just keep going. You and your questions. I don't know. What do you guys always disagree with me on? The only thing that comes to mind is, and Jill and I were watching this the other day, there's this movie, it's Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, called Joe versus the Volcano. Almost universally hated by almost everybody I know. The only two other people that love that movie aside from me is Jill and my best friend. I mean, I could talk about jiu-jitsu all day long now. I mean, I've completely fallen in love with that because it changes the way I think. You know, it definitely has changed my body. You know, physically, I'm much more healthy than I've probably ever been. But the way it changes you, and I don't even know how to describe it. I'm much more calm and relaxed. You go and you go do a hard workout and you go to a class and it's brutal, and like we were saying before, you got a 200-pound guy on top of you and you're trying to get him off. But at the end of the class, everybody's just smiling, you know, and there's just a sense of peace, and the world hasn't existed for the last hour and a half. It's more like meditation than anything else, I think.